Welcome to Ren Behind the Practice. I'm Sophie Campisi. I'm a holistic business builder and startup expert. Every week, I sit down with practitioners, coaches, and healers to explore what's really happening behind the scenes of building a mission-driven business. Over the years, I've noticed something surprising. Many incredibly talented practitioners and coaches aren't struggling because they lack passion, skill, or dedication. They're struggling because they've invested enormous amounts of time, money, and energy and resources into building their businesses, yet the results often don't match the effort. I've come to realize that disconnect isn't random. Most practitioners are incredibly skilled at the work they do with their clients, but very few of us were ever taught or trained in how to build and validate a business model. So we piece things together, follow advice, invest in courses, work incredibly hard, and often find ourselves wondering why things still aren't clicking. This podcast exists to slow those conversations down and ask better questions before rushing to answers. Together, we explore the dreams, the uncertainty, the pivots, the breakthroughs, and the blind spots that shape the journey of building a practice. My hope is that these conversations help you recognize what's really happening in your own business so you can stop guessing, start seeing things more clearly, and build a business that is as impactful as the work that you do. Today's guest is Yvonne Clark. Yvonne is a certified financial life coach who helps people navigate life's changes with practical financial guidance. Her goal is to help clients feel more confident and in control of their money. Yvonne, it is so great to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up and having this conversation with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Before we look behind the scenes today, can you share with us a little bit more about the work that you do?
Yeah. And when a lot of people think about a financial coach, well, first, a lot of people don't know what a financial coach is. And I'm actually continuing on with studying to become a certified financial counselor as well. But a lot of people come to me thinking that I'm like an investment advisor or I sell insurance or things like that. I don't sell any product whatsoever. I don't advise. I help people that are going through some sort of life transition generally, divorce, getting married, where couples are like trying to figure out how to communicate with their money. They come with two different mindsets, or a divorce, and now you're having to figure out how to do this on your own. People wanting to have a baby and somebody wants to stay home with the child. How do we do that now? Go down to one income. So when life has changed and it's changing their finances, that's generally who I deal with. But I have found that a lot of my clients, especially recently, are women who are coming to me that have spending issues. And that's where the life coaching comes into all of it. I'm actually a certified life coach as well, and a certified financial coach. And so I don't deal with just money. We actually won't talk about money, talk about a budget or anything for probably at least 3 meetings. Because we're going to talk, we're going to get deeper. We're going to find out why these things are happening. And the reason why is because if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, whether it's I want to stay home with my child or I need to stop spending money, those patterns are going to repeat. And I think it's a really important work to do because life is not just about money. Money comes and goes. It's to figure out the whole pattern behind it, the reasonings behind it. So we go a little bit deeper than just talking about a budget and how to pay off your visa.
What was your path leading up to this? Like, were there some certain things that converged that had you land in this spot?
Looking back now, I can see that was the case. I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years and ended up getting divorced. So I was suddenly a single mom with 2 kids and no income. And so I had to work my tail off to support myself and my kids. I worked 3 jobs at one time, learned the hard way how to do all of this. I knew how to budget. I was the homemaker. I took care of the bills when I was married. That wasn't the problem, but I didn't know how to make money, really. And so I took the hard route and worked really hard and figured it out, furthered my education, my skills, all of that. And I ended up working as a realtor for several years. And then when you realize that, the whole entrepreneurship, because being a realtor it's a contract job, there is no benefits. After a few years, I lived in a place that had a sudden oil boom. So prices tripled, everything tripled. My rent went from what I could afford to unbearable in a month's time. Things like that. Houses, works, food, everything was extravagantly expensive. And so I thought I've got to do something else. I had no insurance for myself. That was getting expensive. So I went into the mortgage side of it because I understood housing. And again, climbed that corporate ladder, made a whole bunch of money, And when COVID hit and it changed everything for everybody in every way, it was actually during COVID when I made the most money and I was miserable. I was like, this sucks. I have everything I ever wanted, all the money I could have ever dreamt, more money than I was thinking I was ever going to make because everybody was refinancing their homes because they suddenly couldn't afford their payment anymore. They had to figure that out. So I was making more money than I could think of. And I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. Literally one day at work, I was trying to figure out the filings of the money that was somebody was refinancing their house. And I thought, I've done this 1,000 times. I suddenly had no idea what I literally was drawing a blank. I was like, I can't even think. So I pulled up the training sheet that I used for people when I was training incoming workers. And I had to actually use a training sheet to figure out my calculations. And I thought something's wrong. So I contacted my boss and I said, I need to take the day off. I'm not feeling well. Can you finish this file and stuff? So I was actually working with a holistic practitioner. She was a naturopath. And I called her. I said, something's wrong. I don't know if I'm having a nervous breakdown. I don't know what. So working with her, she realized that she asked me, she goes, have you been under a lot of stress lately? I said, well, but I feel okay. She said, well, your adrenal system is upside down. She said, honey, you are making zero cortisol. She said, you're to the point where you have run it out. So I actually had to be put on cortisol and just to function. And I thought, okay, I need to make some changes. And I actually hired a career coach because I had been in this industry for so long. I literally contacted her and I said, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I just don't know. So I worked with her for about 6 months and didn't get a job. And she's like, I was giving her a complex because she had never had a client who could not find a job. And I told her, I said, I'll be honest with you. Every time I apply for a job, I sometimes literally out loud say, or to myself say, I hope I don't get this job. So I was sabotaging myself unbeknownst to myself. And she said, she said, maybe corporate life isn't for you anymore. And I said, I don't think it is. I really don't. So she suggested that I do what she's doing. And that was being a career coach. So I went through all the steps of becoming a career coach and I helped people find jobs and stuff. But again, I had people coming back to me saying, I love my new job. I'm making the money, the promotion, the blah, 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 but something's missing. And I was like, oh, I understand that. So that's when I became certified as a life coach and I started adding life coaching to it. But then I still had clients again. And this was something that I had experienced myself is the money aspect. And people still weren't satisfied. They had the life coaching, they had the new job, but something was still missing. They were still spending a lot, or they could never buy enough things to make home feel like home. And I thought, this is something that needs to be dealt with. And of course, having been in real estate and mortgage, I had counseled people at that time with their finances in a way that I wasn't aware I was doing, but it just became natural to me. So I thought, I think that's the route that I need to go. And it absolutely has been where I need to be. I work mostly with women. I do couples if they want to work together. Of course, if somebody is in a partnership and they're dealing with financial issues, I do prefer that they are together. But I do have some that are married and I solely work with the woman. But our money mindset, and I know people throw that around, oh, it's technical talk, but it's true. Our mindset on money and how we deal with it from the time when we were children and how we were raised to view money has an impact all of our life if we don't understand it. And so, like I said, when we talk about dealing with money, it doesn't happen until a few sessions in at least, because there's so much more to deal with before we even talk about your money situation. So that's the long route of how I became a financial coach.
The clients that you've had or that you have now, where do you tend to connect with them originally? Is it referral based mostly, or do you have a way that people find you?
Most of the people that I've worked with are people that I know or past clients from career coaching, things like that. I do find it, and what you said in your intro was really, I was in my head, I'm going, oh my God, that's me. I've tried everything, to reach out, to do the organics, to do the networking, to do all of that. And it's really difficult. And I too have spent the tens of thousands of dollars to take this marketing course, to take this business building thing, and nothing seems to be catching on. And so now I'm looking at ways that I am learning to maybe take off my corporate hat a little bit more, because that's not me, and reconnect with myself. I'm actually getting ready to start. I've entered into a somatic program to start dealing with that for me. And because when I'm dealing with people that are having, in a sense, financial trauma, I need to know how to take off that financial hat. And so referrals do work somewhat, but when you're talking about money, people really need to trust you. And that's not been an issue, but people don't know me. So now I'm working on that part. But again, like you have said, it is so difficult to figure out that magic formula of how to get clients at all, in a sense.
People aren't teaching it,
They're not.
really. That's why people aren't teaching it. You know, my backstory, I was in that same boat for so many years. I have a business master's, went to law school, very tech savvy, very business savvy, invested in all the things that people said, if you do this, it's going to work. Literally, it never worked.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's what I discovered. And I felt like I was craving something. There was this missing piece, and that's what it was. I was looking for someone to show me and guide me through the process of how to, like, again, not sexy. I don't, you know, sometimes I lead with this, but it's like I didn't know how to build the business model. And a business model isn't just, this is what I do, this is the offer. The business model is all of the working pieces. Those 5 or 6 vital key pieces that lay the foundation for the business model that you can then let that run and go. Most people out there are telling you to push the accelerator when there's no engine built.
Right.
No one's showing us how to build the engine, how to do that. So yeah, I totally get it. That's what, of course, obviously that's what I do now, but it's because I was in your shoes, and like pretty much every single person I've talked to and every single person listening has that same experience. You know, getting clients is very difficult and it's not sustainable, and, you know, all of those things, the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. People say the same things over and over and over again. So
Well, you had mentioned something earlier when we were talking about, you know, they teach you how to sell the cupcake, and it's true. They teach you how to sell the cupcake, but nobody teaches you how to gather the ingredients to make the cupcake to begin with. And that's kind of where I'm at. You know, it's like there's obviously some missing piece when it comes to trying to get clients that is just not working.
when you think about the next 6 to 12 months, what would you really love to see happen in your business?
I would love to know how, obviously, to get clients on a regular basis. And it's not when you're a coach, and I feel that most coaches are this way, and that's why we stick it out for so long. It's not necessarily about the money. Yes, you want money, you want to be able to sustain a life, you want to pay your bills. But when you become a coach, when you take that step to become an entrepreneur, especially if you've stepped out of a corporate position, it's your drive. It's what really fulfills you, is seeing your clients succeed. That is what feeds us. That is what keeps us going. The money on top is nice because it pays your bills, but that's stuff. But there's a soul fulfillment that I think somebody who really sticks with it is what we get out of it more than anything. So that's what I want. I want to steady clients that can come back to me and be like, this was awesome. You changed my life. That feels amazing.
The business is the vehicle that takes us deeper into our mission. It is the vehicle that takes us deeper into our integrity. And that's such a breakdown for us, because if and when the business isn't working, and I'm not talking about if our work doesn't work, our work works. I've never once stumbled into someone who's the quality of their work or their work is the problem. Never. So I'm not talking about that. The business, I'm talking about the actual technical mechanics of the business model. If our business doesn't work, we're not in our integrity. Why? Because we can't be with our mission. We're not deep in our mission because we can't reach people. If the business model doesn't work, we're not able to find the people that we are here in this life to serve and to support,
Yes.
and they can't find us.
Exactly.
So it is way more than money. It is way more than just these other things. It's part of why I started this podcast. Of course, why I do what I do, but part of why I started this podcast, because there's tons of business advice out there and business stuff out there. But there are things that make our pocket of the world unique. And one of those things is when you're building a mission-driven business or a mission-driven practice, it is more than just entrepreneurship. It is entrepreneurship overlaid with dharma, essentially. And so if and when the business doesn't work, it's deeply personal because it doesn't just go away.
No.
It's not just, okay, this one didn't work. Let me try a different business model. Okay, I couldn't get the ice cream shop to work. Let me go try a snow cone stand. Or like, it's not just entrepreneurship. So if we can't get the business to work, it is incredibly painful, but not just from our ego, not because we can't make money, because we have found this thing that we're supposed to be doing. We found this purpose. We found this mission. We've come in tune with our dharma, whatever you want to call it. We can't unsee that. So it doesn't just go away when the business isn't working. And there's a huge cost to that.
That's why it's so difficult when people ask me why I don't just quit or try something different. You cannot make somebody understand. You just can't.
What have you already been focusing on or trying to get to that point where you feel like the business model is working or you have those steady clients so that you can be deeply fulfilled and deeply immersed in your mission and in your integrity for what you want to do?
Well, like most entrepreneurs, you've taken every course and spent tons of money that has just fallen flat. And, you've got notebooks everywhere that lead to nowhere. Networking, everybody's like, oh, join the Chamber of Commerce, do these networking things. That's great. The referrals are okay. I like the referrals when they work, but that's a long game. That is not something that just, happens in a week. You're going to get a client from a referral, unless it's somebody that you've known for a long time. So I do build referral businesses with people, especially from the real estate and mortgage world, when they have clients that are going through something, that might need help, especially financially, that, getting divorced, can't afford a house. So now we got to get that. So I love that aspect. But also there's a lot of work that I'm doing on myself so that I can be more authentic. And not that I'm not authentic, but like I said, I do struggle with the corporate hat still. And I've been out of corporate world for a while. But it's ingrained in you pretty hard when you do it long enough. I'm sure you will know that, because I want to be that really true. I want to be as vulnerable for my clients as I want them to be with me. So there is work that I still do on myself. But as far as the business model, it is the typical things that everybody tells you to do that kind of work sometimes, but you get tired of selling yourself all the time. And you are just a walking billboard for that. And that doesn't feel authentic to me either. So I know that there's got to be more to this to make a successful business. I do surround myself. I am a part of a few groups of other entrepreneurs, and I think that does help, because being groups of business people doesn't necessarily help, because if you're still working the 9 to 5, you do not understand the unique struggles mentally and emotionally that you go through when you're an entrepreneur. So I am a part of a few cohorts that are solely entrepreneurs. One is for just financial coaches. That is amazing, because we do have a unique struggle. I would say that every niche has a unique struggle. And so that I think has been really helpful. It hasn't necessarily helped me get business so much, other than sometimes it is what keeps me going. When I am ready to give up and just be like, let me just go back to the 9 to 5. I know I would regret that decision gravely if I'd done.
It's giving you some community and belonging around something that can be
Yes.
incredibly isolating.
Yes,
And
it's
incredibly lonely.
definitely isolating being an entrepreneur.
Certainly. And it's not necessarily fixing the business model, but it is giving you something that is supporting you, which isn't nothing. When you look at everything that you've done and everything that you've tried, does it feel like the results have matched the effort that you've put in?
Not even close. Not at all.
What's that been like for you?
It's frustrating because you feel like you're just spinning in circles. You're like, I've tried everything that I can imagine to try and nothing is working. And eventually you get to the point where you have done so many things that they're all the same thing and none of it's working. And you wonder, okay, you're like, okay, why are other people successful and I am not? What do they know that I don't know? And sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it's previous connections that you will never have. Sometimes they do have that magic formula, but they're not sharing it with you because you're going to be competition. And I don't like that, because I definitely feel that there is enough out there for all of us to work to make the world a better place, to really help people. If you one of the people in one of my cohorts for financial coaching, he always said, if you have the cure for cancer, why are you keeping it to yourself? And I get that. As an entrepreneur, that's how you feel. To me, it shouldn't be a competition. It should be, and an enrichment of each other because we need each other. And if we look at being coaches as a holistic practice as a whole, I may work on the financial part and some of the life coaching, but I'll have really good friends coach. One is a DNA health coach. And a lot of people, those things can go hand in hand. I have a great friend who is a health and wellness coach, and she does physical training for people. And we all work together greatly. But some people don't see it that way. They're like, I'm not telling you my secret because you might steal a client. So I don't understand that thought process.
First of all, or one thing, if that's how they are, they don't have the magic formula.
That's true.
Okay. Because if they did, I think a little bit in ways that I have this magic formula, not magic. I just like found this missing piece.
Sure.
So if someone actually had that, because I think what I now teach people and what I work with, it works, there wouldn't be that competition because people would understand how to get their business to work. But because they don't, they might have had some luck or they came into it and they don't understand the actual formula that has it, that scarcity can come in because they actually don't understand it. So they don't have the magic formula, which is why we see that scarcity mentality, because they don't know how to recreate it. They don't really know maybe why it's working, even if it is. But also, if they have that, their business probably isn't working as well as it might look on the outside.
And it's something they're not going to be able to repeat when it does go down.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of what has that. The other thing, something that you said, Yvonne, that I really, really appreciate you bringing up is that I tell people this all the time. Even if every single one of us was completely thriving in our businesses to whatever size is right for us, because that's always going to be different person to person. If all of us were completely thriving, we would barely be scratching the surface of the demand that there is.
Agreed.
Barely. Like we can't even, if every single one of us was completely thriving in our businesses, our practices, our finances, everything, we could not even begin to touch the amount of demand.
Agreed.
So this goes back to what I was just saying. Because people don't understand the business side is why we think that there is any reason to be in competition, or there's any reason to think that anyone could or should be competing with clients. Because there is so much demand, we could barely even touch it. But we're in such breakdown with the business because our businesses aren't working. We don't understand it. We think that there's a handful of clients and we got to grab them because we don't understand, what you and I kind of talked about, what I show people, how to translate your gifts, your skills, your brilliance, everything that you are to real market demand. We don't understand, like there's this whole process that does that. We think this mentality of like, oh, there's 10 people that are going to be looking for someone, so I better grab that person.
City mindset within the coach themselves.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a big problem. It's a big breakdown. But again, it comes back down to the same thing. We don't understand really how to build our businesses or work with our business, and we don't understand the mechanics. We don't have the magic formula. So it is harming us so much because people who in their regular lives might not be facing scarcity mindset, then when they come into the work environment, it's really strong because there's such breakdown and they're so devoted to it. I really believe most people are really well-meaning. I really, really, really believe that. But also the reality is they do still have to pay their bills, and they do have this thing that we all feel, which is this deep calling to be of service. And when we're in such breakdown with the business, the shadow side of that can come out because it does bring out a certain amount of desperation and scarcity mindset because we're all like trying to figure it out, and can be scary, but certainly deeply personal. And I've already said that it's deep. It's really deep.
It is.
Where in your business does it still feel like you're mostly guessing?
How to get clients. The work itself, I love doing, but it's, you need more people to do it with. And that seems to be the hardest part is how to get them. It seems so simple, but it's really not.
No. And it is one of the fundamental pieces to sustainability. And it's not, and when I talk about, and when we talk about sustainability as holistic minded practitioners and service providers, it's not just financial, it's also energetic. It's nervous system, it's capacity. And when we are giving so much and pouring so much into the business without the effort matching the results again, sidebar financial, but also like the mission, like you said, that fulfillment and that satisfaction of someone's life starting to work and, you know,
Yes.
all the things that we bring. So it's results are also multifaceted, but when the effort isn't matching the results, that burnout is real. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
What's been hardest about that for you? Especially coming from a corporate background, you've come from a lot of success. You've come from, you know, little versions of entrepreneurship with real estate. Sounds like you've spent some time as an employee where things might be a little straightforward. But what's been hardest about that, or what's felt most unclear about this breakdown when it's come to this, you know, kind of startup entrepreneurship lane?
The isolation, the and I don't mean this in a negative way, but anybody who's been through this will understand. It's the lack of understanding of other people around you, especially people that you know, whether they want to support you or whether they don't want to support you, the not understanding. A lot of when you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of people in your life that will think that just means that you have all the free time in the world, you can come and go as you please. And so they don't understand when you're like, no, today I still have to work, but you own your own business, you can do what you want. No, you don't understand. And the emotional part of it, you know, it starting your own business is an enormous risk. It is a risk financially, emotionally, just in every way, it is a risk. And when somebody else hasn't gone through that or taken those risks, it's really difficult for them, even if they want to understand the, you know, lack of steady income. When you're a solopreneur, the lack of interaction with coworkers that you might miss. There's a whole bunch of things that other people who aren't going through this journey don't understand, even if they want to. So that's been very difficult. And I'm not a super social person, but I still miss having people around me that understand the process or that understand the journey. So that is why I'm part of a couple of different groups of entrepreneurs that do understand. It's more of an emotional support than anything, which is needed, very needed when you're a solopreneur.
Certainly. And something that you brought up earlier too about, you know, joining the Chamber of Commerce and people will tell you do this. There's also different types of entrepreneurship, and that's not talked about nearly enough. And one of the biggest differences, and there are, you know, more nuances, but is like small business ownership, entrepreneurship versus startup entrepreneurship. And this is, I've actually heard some people booked a session with me recently, and holistic practitioners, coaches, healers seeking to start their business together. There were a couple. And they were like, yeah, everyone told us to go to the Chamber of Commerce. So we've been there, but like it's kind of falling flat. Everyone's just trying to tell us to do all these things. And one of the biggest things is most people there are going to be small business owners. And, you know, just to give some like very simple and quick language to one of the main differences, a small business owner, small business entrepreneurship, it goes back to those business models that are already proven business models. There's already, you know, proven market demand, proven product market fit for those. So those are businesses that you can kind of essentially start and run overnight because there's so many business plans out there. Gas station, ice cream shop, nail salon, dry cleaners, right? There are thousands, hundred thousands, if not millions, and there's going to be more open tomorrow. Why is that? Because it's already a proven business model. And so with a little bit of work on demographics, you still have to do some, but you can essentially start those businesses overnight and start running them, and they're going to start
Be
working.
profitable. Yeah,
Startup entrepreneurship is completely different.
very.
Okay. We have this whole phase that we have to navigate. And that's what very few people are talking about, and very few people understand, and very few people are able to teach people and show people, but how to translate what we know is possible and where we know things are headed back to real market demand when people don't know what they don't know, right? Like they don't know yet that they need this. Well, then you have this whole phase of startup entrepreneurship that most people, again, like aren't talking about and aren't teaching. And so that's something that I see is also one of the biggest things that's causing the isolation for startup entrepreneurs and people in our industry is because a lot of people are treating them like small business owners. Like, you should just be able to do this. Go try this, do this, it should work. And it's making us feel even more isolated and confused and alone because it's like, what are y'all seeing that I'm not? Or what am I missing? Or like, what is it? Because everything that you're saying, it doesn't apply to me, but you're treating me like it does. And again, people just don't know. But that's part of why even, I've talked to people who will join a chamber of commerce and it's like, it's mostly small business owners who are in commodity business ownership, which is fine. These are great. Most of our economy runs off of those businesses, but it's like apples to oranges comparing it to startup entrepreneurship.
Agreed. Very much so.
Last question I'm going to ask you today. If you could wave a magic wand and have one piece of building your business suddenly become crystal clear, what would that be? What would make the biggest difference for you?
It's going to go back to getting the clients. I can't make a difference in this world if I don't have clients. And any business is that way. Like I said, I've done the work. I've got the education. I've got the certifications. I've done that. And my work with the clients I have had has proven that what I do works. I just don't know how to bring more people in. I have big aspirations of the things I want to do, the people I want to impact, and the difference I want to make in the world. Eventually, I really would like to start working with school systems, or especially with underprivileged kids, because they're coming from a mindset of mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and everybody before me has never made it. Why would I be different? And I want them to know they can. And I think that's something that I really want to get into. But first, I have to be able to make my business sustainable before I can start branching into that, because they're the future. And if they have a scarcity mindset, a negative money mindset, that sort of thing, I want people to have a healthy relationship with money and not just know how to make money. Making money is easy unless you're a solopreneur. But you can make money. If I wanted to, I could go get another 9 to 5. Making money is not difficult. It's how we handle it, how we look at it, the relationship we have with the money is what makes all the difference, even in how we treat people, how we treat ourselves. And I think that's a really important work that still needs to be done. And I need to be able to do that. So yeah, I need more clients.
Anything else you want to add today before we wrap up?
No, this has been wonderful though. And it does feel really good to know. I had no idea that you existed until God just dropped you in my lap. And to know that there are so many other people going through what I'm going through is heartbreaking, because I'm sorry they're all doing it too, but it feels really good that I'm not out here on an island going, I'm alone and I'm the only one who doesn't know this. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
You're so welcome. Yvonne, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, if any part of this resonated, you're in the right place, please reach out. I want to hear from you. And if you want to reach Yvonne directly, the link to book a free 30-minute strategy call with her is in the show notes. Thank you again, Yvonne, and to everyone else, thank you for listening, and we'll see you for the next episode of Ren Behind the Practice.